Hello, hello, and welcome in, everybody. It's time. It is time for Three Guys Before the Game. This would be episode 406, 406 of Three Guys Before the Game. Plain and simple, this is the Texas Review. Three Guys brought to us by Comax Business Systems, your full-service Konica Minolta dealer. Go to Comax Business Systems at comaxwv.com. And by the Burdett Camping Center, the only warranty forever RV dealer in all of West Virginia. On their web, you can visit them at burdettcamping.com. That's burdettcamping.com, two T's next to each other, burdettcamping.com. Last week we talked about the creativity of their promotion for the weekend gone by. They basically had a tiered promotion which could get you $600 off at Burdett Camping. Quasi-parlay, so to speak, and the way that it was going to work was that if volleyball won against TCU, that's $200. If the women's team won its game in soccer, that's $200. And if the Mountaineers covered, that's $200. Sometimes you go to bat and you got to walk back to the dugout empty-handed. And unfortunately, none of those hit. So, zero.
Very creative promotion.
Well done.
And one that you thought had insulated against a loss, right? You tried to cover three different sports. You thought you could get one or two of those home, even if not all three. No luck. We regroup and try again.
Didn't happen. So we come in to the studio today, and we have that same vibe, same feel as coming out of the Kansas game in the sense that you have this great disappointment. There's great disappointment. Now, yes, the difference is that West Virginia was favored against Kansas. They were not favored against Texas. But still, I think disappointed as much about the performance and the execution or lack thereof as ultimately the result of the game. Just a thought. On this program, we will get into the numbers, what exactly transpired statistically, analytically, and of course, we will opine. First on the opine list, would you please welcome to the program veteran announcer, West Virginia Broadcast Hall of Fame member, part of the local chapter of Mensa, Hoppy Kercheval. Hoppy, take away 48 hours after.
Believe me, I will never be mistaken for a member of Mensa. Tony, as you know, I've been around for a long time, seen a lot of games, and what this reminded me of was the old days of playing Penn State. I'm talking about late 70s, early 80s, where going into the game, you're not favored, but you think, okay, maybe it's time that you actually man up against a bigger opponent, a better opponent. Maybe this, and you're going to be, and just get manhandled and just get run out of the house. I mean, I've seen that happen. I saw that happen so many times against Penn State. I would remember being there in like 1981 or 83, whenever it was, and just like, okay, you have great hopes, and Penn State just does what Penn State did at that time because they were better and they had better players and they executed. And West Virginia, was falling over themselves. And that's what it felt like to me. It felt like that West Virginia didn't belong there. It felt like West Virginia got manhandled. It felt like West Virginia wasn't fully prepared. This defense is bad, and Texas took advantage of that. And to get erased so early in that game. I mean, it'd be one thing if in the second half Texas pulled away and go, wow, okay, you really battled, but Texas pulled away. No, that game was over early. I think after the first two scores by Texas, you got the drift like, wow, this is not going to happen. So it was very disappointing, and it makes you think that maybe, and we know that that Virginia Tech isn't very good, that the aberration is when things come together and you play well and get a win. That's the aberration. And what you saw Saturday is more of the reality, is more of the standard than the aberration.
Yeah. Senator, top of the day to you.
I've got some issues with some of the things he just said right there that we'll come back to in a minute. I agree with your overall larger point there, and here's where I was with this. I talked all last week about this was not a good matchup for West Virginia. I didn't like schematically the things that Texas did and West Virginia's ability to stop them. Didn't like the situation at all from a Texas standpoint. I thought you would get the exact Texas team that you got coming out refocused and ready to go. Where I would take issue, Tony, with what you said about disappointment, similar to how you felt after Kansas, here's the difference to me. I thought we all walked out of that Kansas game and went, well, that's a heck of a bad loss right there. But Kansas was kind of impressive. I think we were on that early in terms of West Virginia people watching that game to see what was going to happen with Kansas as they've taken off and become the story of college football. This, to me, was different, and this is where I do agree with your take right there, Hoppy. That looked different than the other losses this year. The other losses, you haven't been run off the field.
Right.
You've made mistakes. There was a play here or there that you could have changed around and you would have been off and running. But you looked at that West Virginia team and went, all right, you got some things there to work with. That was not that on Saturday. That was like, what the hell is this? I mean, they did not belong on that same field with Texas. You talk about getting big boyed, they got big boyed. West Virginia did. They had no business being on that field from very early on. That was the surprise to me, especially on the offensive side. I thought this offensive football team was ready to step forth and challenge people. And even if you gave up 38 or 45, that you'd be in the mix because you could score with anybody, especially that Texas team. Now, that's, to me, the part where you try and step back and go, okay, what just happened there? Is that the norm, or can you get past that a little bit? Because you didn't belong on that field, and that's what surprised me most, is I thought West Virginia had moved past the point where they would get dominated by a team in this league, especially, all due respect to Texas, especially Texas. They hadn't done that to you in the entire time you've been in this league. In fact, you've had success against that program. That program has not done that to you since you joined the league, and they did on Saturday on both sides of the football.
The big question going into the game is which Texas would show up. Would it be the Texas against Alabama, which barely lost to the number one team, or would it be the one that kind of muddled around against ULM and then lost to Texas Tech? You didn't know. And then you heard that they had a players meeting during the week, and you went, well, this is pretty good. Maybe they got some internal issues. So with that being said, I think the start of the game was absolutely paramount in importance for West Virginia. They needed to come out there and lay the hammer down early just to put doubt into Texas's mind. However, what happened was Texas won the first 2 or 3 rounds of that fight, and after that said, we're fine, got them. So to me, the inability to execute early was West Virginia's downfall for the entirety of the game.
I was completely missed it, and credit to Brad because he was right. I thought they'd come out of the Texas Tech game, and maybe it was just wishful thinking that, like, oh, have some doubts. And like you said, Tony, that players-only meeting, sometimes when you have that, there's something going on internally, you're not quite right. And Brad had said he thought they were going to come out and be challenged. And that's what happened. I mean, they came out and got right in your grill. The defense got up. I mean, defensive backs, I thought, for Texas were excellent. Just got right up there to the receiver, said, we can cover you. You can't beat us.
Weren't scared of West Virginia's receivers at all.
Not at all. Not at all. And so they rose to the occasion. Whatever challenge was made this week, they rose to that challenge, and West Virginia did not.
And that's 100% right. Those defensive backs, that's not how they played against Texas Tech. They stayed back. And so credit to them. They totally adjusted. Their attitude adjusted. Their scheme adjusted. They got up and pressured and weren't worried about West Virginia beating them deep, and did a much better job of exposing West Virginia's deficiencies than West Virginia did exposing Texas's. The fact that West Virginia couldn't get pressure on Hudson Card, and he sat back there like he was a 5-time Heisman winner, throws for 80% completion rate almost with him? I mean, he was very good. And there was no pressure. That's a leaky Texas offensive line that West Virginia couldn't take advantage of. Flip over to the offensive side. The drops are back again, guys. Yeah. I mean, we can go through all kinds of numbers. I got a bunch of stats here for you and stuff. But if your defensive backs can't get turned around or getting beat over the top constantly, which was the game plan for Texas, and your receivers can't catch the ball in critical situations, then it doesn't matter what else we say. It just doesn't matter what else we say. I don't know that you win that game against Texas if you catch those balls early, but you certainly like your chances a lot better. You had a 3rd down drop that would have converted. You turned around with a 4th down drop that would have converted. You had a dropped interception that's not even counted as a drop, but the defense drops a dropped interception that ends up in the guy's hands who's laying on his stomach or on his back for a touchdown. Not only was it not an interception and turnover, it ends up into a touchdown for Texas.
Squib kick, which is right in your hands.
Yeah, Prather got the squib kick got away from Prather.
Poor Prather. I don't know how he didn't have. He had it 2 different times. Now that's a little different than a receiving drop, but point being, break didn't go your way on that. So they've just got to get their stuff cleaned up. I think here's the thing you have to say moving forward, Hop. I don't know that that's the norm. Now, maybe it turns into the norm. It hasn't been this year. It has not been the norm with this team. That, to me, feels like more of an outlier performance. And you've got a chance to win some games coming up here. Big 12 is extremely deep. It's not top-heavy, but it's extremely deep. But there's also significant flaws with every team remaining on the schedule. Now, West Virginia's included in that. It has significant flaws. And I think if you're a West Virginia fan, you're looking at this thinking West Virginia might be at the bottom of the Big 12 right now. As you start to look around these teams, I think the other teams are identifying West Virginia as the mark. What's that poker saying? If you look around the table and can't identify the mark, you're the mark.
You.
Yeah. And unfortunately for West Virginia, as it sits here today, it doesn't mean it can't bounce back. I think it's the mark as we sit here today. That's the scary part.
All really, really good points. Someone is going to be at the bottom. One of these teams is going to be at the bottom. And what happens here for West Virginia in these next couple of games will determine which way this thing is going to go. The significance of the Baylor game is off the chart as far as importance goes, which is a little bit frightening considering how Baylor absolutely manhandled West Virginia last season. But you've got some extra time. You've got to regroup. Some of these errors which we saw in the defensive backfield against Texas were absolutely head-shaking errors. And so that goes back to the Kansas deal where they just literally weren't in the position to make plays.
Well, and Tony, at some point, too, what you have is what you have. I mean, you're going to look around the room. It's like the basketball coach looking down the bench. Well, that's who I got. That's who's playing. You don't have other players that you can necessarily play. They're going to do any better. Number one. Number two, Texas did, as Steve Dunlap pointed out on our coverage, Texas did what Kansas did, and that is they're running the same plays. They just give you different formations, and you're like, you got deer in the headlights, and you're not covered it. So you don't have the experience back there to adjust when the offense adjusts or shows you something different.
Mm-hmm. How about those little RPOs down the sidelines? How about those little dump passes right down the sideline, just open highway? Guys not getting over in place, drop the interception, fall down. It was just an absolute ugh.
Yeah, well, that's what we said last week. They're going to attack the edges. They did. That's what was open. They're going to attack downfield and try and big play you. They did.
And how about
they did exactly what they do. I think that's the maddening thing. And they can give you different looks all they want. That's what they do. They were going to attack the edges and they were going to hit you deep, and you did. And you knew it was coming and you didn't stop it.
How about their ability to blow up West Virginia's receiver screens?
Oh.
I mean, they were there and just blowed it up all night long.
Well, and West Virginia inability to one, catch it, but two, have anybody that can get deep. And a lot of that's because you weren't protecting, right? So that there wasn't receiver separation, but there also wasn't time to run anything downfield because the pocket was getting pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
That surprised me. I thought this line was ready to go and would handle that. And they just didn't. There was just too much pressure coupled with the drops, the lack of separation. And then Texas just was like a pack of rabid dogs there. They just kept coming up on you saying, we're not going by us.
It wasn't like a guy came off the corner and, missed blocker, didn't see him coming, or a corner blitz. It was like guys right up the middle, right in Daniel's face. And as a result, Daniels did not have a good night. And receivers, and he's looking for a receiver to be open. Well, guys aren't open. So it was just a combination of a lot of different things.
That's the thing. I mean, almost every catch, it's interesting. Given how many drops there were, the receivers actually made some really nice catches. Almost every play they had to make was with somebody draped on them. There just wasn't anything easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go back to what I said in the open. That surprised me the most.
Now those are our subjective opinions. What do the numbers say? What do the numbers say?
Well, I mean, basically that.
I know. But go ahead, give us some empirical proof.
Well, I said the one already. The 79% completion rate for Hudson Card was just maddening. 10 total pass plays of more than 15 yards. Said going in, you got to stop big plays, and you got to try and get a couple yourself. You just didn't. I mean, do I need to keep going? There's just no sense even looking at them.
Pass grades for the O linemen were bad.
Weren't as bad as you would have thought, but they weren't great. The pass coverage, second lowest pass coverage grade since Neil Brown's arrived.
Second lowest.
Mm-hmm. Since he's arrived. So the numbers would back up what you saw.
The reality of it is that West Virginia is continuing to pay the price for the players that have departed that could have been in the back of that defense, right? You go from Tyke Smith, Nick Troy Fortune, Jackie Matthews,
Daryl Porter Jr.
I mean, those were guys that were penciled in to be there, and their replacements have not yet been able to meet where those guys are or were. And as a result, you are paying a dear, dear price.
Well, you are, and that's why I think Neil Brown says, and we've talked about too, you got to score 30 plus. I mean, you got to score some points, and so you have a perfect storm when you know you're going to give up points, which you didn't get stops when you needed to, and then you can't score. You can't score, or you're not scoring like you think you should be able to. So now you got a bad combination there.
With that being said, seems as though perfect time not to play this week. Agreed?
Oh, yeah.
Mentally, physically, I say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you just need to handle it as you did last year. When a similar situation happened when you went to Baylor. You didn't show up. You got manhandled. You got big boyed. You looked like you didn't even belong on the field. You had the bye week, and you came back, and then you started to take off a little bit. You met some matchups that were a little more favorable to you, made some internal tweaks, and it took off, and you won some games, got the ship righted to some extent. That's what you're going to have to do this year. Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU, Iowa State, Oklahoma, Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
Did you guys watch TCU?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! Are you kidding me?
They look good.
Run up and down the field.
Run up and down the field, and here's the thing that stood out to me. It's the same guys from last year. I mean, they got all their players, all their skill guys are the same dudes. They've played a lot of football there. They're re-energized. They feel great now.
They feel great. Oklahoma is bad defensively. Not kind of bad, not struggling, bad.
Senator White.
Bad. We were watching that game. There were shots on the screen. We've used this example before. There's TCU guys running, and they're in an Oklahoma guy on the screen. They are a mess.
Well, let me ask you this. Why do you think that is?
They had some guys transfer out from last year, and they weren't good defensively to begin with. So they had guys transfer out after the coaching change, and they haven't replaced. Now, again, some of those guys that left, you would say, okay, maybe they probably needed to go. They are not good.
Red River rivalry this weekend. Fairgrounds there in Texas, Hop.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about that.
I understand. I'm just saying, significance of it. Oklahoma, someone's really going to be in the hole. Oklahoma already has 2 league losses.
I mean, there was this Tony Saturday. We're looking at the TV, and
you have one or
no, we have 4. But they put up the standings, and there's Kansas at the top, and Oklahoma's at the bottom.
Yeah.
So, and again, it just tells you the difficulty that you're going to have in this league going forward all the way out. I mean, you look at that. You look at this now, and you go, "Wow, is maybe Iowa State? Maybe you can get them. They're no good. Maybe you can get Kansas State on an off day." I mean, you start to sort of create these things in your mind of try to create these scenarios where you might be able to win some games.
Okay, so here's the things. All right, so let's bring it back. So there's the obvious, the problems that exist within this program and the team you saw, and they were on full display Saturday night. Here's the flip side. These other teams are going through this too. TCU's not going to pick up its performance from Saturday and move it forward every single week throughout the year. You think TCU's going undefeated?
No.
I'll take the field right now. Oklahoma will probably get the ship turned around a little bit to some extent and won't look as bad as they did on Saturday. Iowa State? I mean, you kidding me? With Iowa State, they came into a game, missed 3 field goals. So are they running at peak efficiency? There's games you're going to come up against where the other team's going to look bad too and is going to be flat. That's why last week I kept hammering that situational spot. I think we failed to look at those spots and those matchups enough each week. Texas is not going to play that well every single game throughout the season and haven't. That's why they lost to Texas Tech. But when you get a big group of 5 stars that decide they want to play and are motivated and they peak, well, that's what they did against Alabama and West Virginia. But we say it all the time. The hardest thing in college sports, especially football with that many guys, is to consistently play each week when you don't have obvious and excessive better talent than everybody else. Alabama can go out and do it because they're just better than everybody else. Ohio State drills everybody because they're better than everybody else. Almost everybody else across the country has these ebbs and flows, and you're trying to find ways to win games. Kansas should not be 5-0, guys. Iowa State missed 3 field goals in one game. Kansas had 28 yards of offense in the second half. Is that the juggernaut we saw? Is that the juggernaut that's been going through this league? No, they struggled, but they found a way to win. They got to win, and they move forward. So point being, there's going to be some other teams on West Virginia's schedule that come in flat and have bad games. It's not all lost.
That is okay. That is true. That's well said. I would just say, though, that West Virginia, in order to be in those games or have a chance to win those games, they got to clean up the things that are reoccurring now, like the drops, like the penalties, like hit somebody out of bounds, those kinds of things. Be able to protect the quarterback, be able to run the football. So the things that they did so poorly against Texas when Texas was really on target, they have to clean those things up, or all those games will be a struggle.
Well, sure, but they have at times. Did they have those problems against Virginia Tech?
They did not, but I don't think Virginia Tech, I wouldn't take Virginia Tech against any of these remaining teams in the Big 12. I would not pick Virginia Tech against any of these remaining
struggling.
teams.
I'm telling you, there's some Big 12 teams that are going to be struggling by the time we get to the end. So just mark that down. You can't just pick these performances up, nor can you just pick up a West Virginia bad performance, its low point, and say that's the norm moving forward, because that's just not the case in college sports. It's just simply not.
It's time to enact SIM. It's time to enact SIM once again. We used it after the Kansas game. Somewhere in middle. The reality of it is this is somewhere in the middle. West Virginia wasn't as bad as it was Saturday night, and it probably wasn't as good as it was against Virginia Tech. It's somewhere in the middle. The question is, will the middle be good enough going forward? To Brad's point, there are going to be opportunities as the season goes on if, capital I, capital F, in this next span of days before you play again, that mentally you right yourself. And as you said, last year they did a very good job of turning and keeping those guys with an apple in front of them going like, okay, we can do something. You have to do it.
Right.
And if you don't, then you will be last.
Right. I mean, that's what you have to do. I mean, you have to ensure the first thing before you try to improve is ensure that everybody's still bought in. Now, I do think that they played hard in the second. I don't think they gave up.
No. They didn't.
So in the second half, I mean, they did not mail it in. They got big boyed in the first half. Second half, they did battle back to some degree. So you'd like to think that they're still bought in. The problem would come if you have another loss or two and you start to lose people. Then you got a big problem.
You are correct. Three Guys Before the Game is brought to us by Comax Business Systems, your full-service Konica Minolta dealer. Go to Comax Business Systems at comaxwv.com. That's comaxwv.com. Say, hey, did you know that Comax does offer managed IT services? That's right. They can manage your voice, your phone, your data, 24/7. Remote monitoring gives you a peace of mind knowing that they always have your network's back. That's right, folks. Have that peace of mind like Hoppy has when his wife goes in and places his order at the food place. He's got a peace of mind.
Place?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm not giving those guys any more free pubs.
That's true. They've got way too much.
They got way too much.
We've mentioned it way too many times on the show for not even a free 6-inch sub to show up here. So
exactly.
We're done. Don't say it
Hoppy
anymore.
Goes into a food place and his wife offers him food.
Local establishment that serves food. That's all. That's all it is for me.
Happy has it. Well, you agree. He has a peace of mind because he knows there's no pressure on him. Same thing.
Yeah.
When you use Comax, they'll come in and take everything off your plate, and they go, "We got it. Don't you worry about a thing. We got it." They've been named an elite dealer in the state of West Virginia for the 10th time, an exclusive award. No other dealer in West Virginia has ever received it. So if you're looking for someone that's good, that's got you, it's ComaxWV.com. ComaxWV.com. Before we jump into texts, and I'll get into that in a second. Before we jump into text, so we've often said that the college game is becoming more and more professional. You're seeing that come to fruition. So here we are. It was the first weekend of October. And last night, Black Sunday, for the head coach at Wisconsin and the coach at Colorado. Folks, they didn't used to fire coaches in season, let alone this early in the season. If anything, it would be like the third week of November. But changes are being made. Senator, why did Wisconsin fire Paul Christ, a former, always a West Virginia connection, a former WVU graduate assistant when Don Nealon was here?
Won 72% of his games
Excuse
at
me?
Wisconsin.
Excuse me?
72% of his games at Wisconsin.
Not good enough. Not good enough.
Two Big West title.
Yeah,
Two Big Ten West.
He never probably won any divisional titles, did he?
Two, I think.
Oh, my.
Goodness gracious.
Why did they whack him?
Well, there's a theory floating around out there among the college athletics world. They have a defensive coordinator that's a former player for them.
Played against him.
Very highly coveted defensive coordinator. Is he going pro? Is he going to get a head job? Is he going to go? Is he? Make sure we keep him, right? Because their defense has been very good for years and years and years. Named Jim Leonard. There's a thought that this would be a nice little tryout period for Jim Leonard, Hoppy. So go ahead and whack your coach now. Insert Leonard as the interim and see if what he does with this team for the remaining 7 games of the schedule. Then you know what you have. You know what you have. You know if that's the guy, if he turns this around and you go watch him every day and you do your evaluation, you say, all right, that may be our guy. So it may be a chance to hire a guy with no head coaching experience that you want, but a chance to see him in the head coaching role.
But, Brad, what if that doesn't work?
Well, if that doesn't work, then the hottest coach in America, Lance Lombardi, Lance Leipold at Kansas, you know how far he grew up away from Camp Randall Stadium?
Probably 1,000 miles or something.
Yeah, like about 30 miles.
Uh-oh.
Lance Leipold's agent should absolutely get part ownership in the university. Can you do that?
Sure.
Can you get an ownership in the part university? Like the whole, like all of the revenues that are coming in for the entire university. You sign up for an extra chemistry lab, part of it should go to Leipold.
So part of your tuition would go to Lance Leipold.
Part of it, yeah. Percentage of that should be part owner of the university.
Yeah.
He should go in there and absolutely get about $13 million a year.
So he's got leverage.
Nebraska, right? Oh, he's a Nebraska Omaha guy. You tie him in there. Oh, he's got Wisconsin ties at Wisconsin. Whitewater won.
Sure.
What?
6.
7?
600? 6 national
just
championships.
6. Okay,
6 out of 8 years.
Get whatever he wants now.
But go back. Okay, so they're hot on this defensive coach. I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't like Paul Christ was a dog. I mean, he won a lot of games. Camp Randall was packed for the game Saturday. I mean, geez. I mean, I'm not feeling sorry for the guys getting $16 million, which seems to be the going rate these days when you fire somebody. $16 million minimum.
Yeah.
That's what you got to pay somebody.
Lost a former head coach, Brett Bielema, got smashed 34-10. Got blown out by Ohio State the week before. Beat New Mexico State, big deal. Lost to Washington State. Beat Illinois State. Their wins are over Illinois State and New Mexico State.
This year.
What
were they last year?
Not very good.
Now, Durrell you could see because they were terrible.
They hadn't done anything.
I mean,
he still gets $8 million to go away.
Wow.
You know, there's another West Virginia connection on that Wisconsin staff. Starting linebacker on Mountaineer 88 undefeated team, Chris Herring.
Really? He's on the staff?
He's been there for 8 years. Yeah. 7. Yeah, this is his 8th year. Chris coached at Mount Lebanon, coached at Pitt. That's when he hooked up 12, 13, 14 with Chris. They were boys when Paul was here back then. That's how that relationship starts. So Chris Herring is on that staff. Now he's the tight ends coach at Whiskey.
This was year 8 for Chris, if I'm not mistaken. What do we always say about that time frame?
Yeah, either coming
used
or
to be
going.
Definitely 10. Now it's in that 7-8 range. That's about That's about the length you can get.
So you weren't surprised? You're saying you weren't surprised?
Oh, I was totally surprised. Yeah, but I'm not following Wisconsin football. Yeah, I was surprised. But you hear that reasoning and you think, okay, that's what they're trying to do.
Another West Virginia connection on the other firing, Carl Durrell at Colorado.
Yeah.
Josh Chandler Samito, West Virginia linebacker from last season, former MVP in the, what was that bowl game that we won? Army Liberty Bowl? Was that the Liberty Bowl? Something like that. Anyway, he's their start. He's a linebacker there. He went there. He went from here to there. Always a West Virginia.
Always
a West Virginia connection there. So
now, I have not seen Leipold's name attached to Colorado yet, but I'm sure the list will be forthcoming.
He flew over once. They were going out to California. He flew over the state of Colorado.
Yeah.
He's already out of their price range.
You want to laugh before the game on Saturday.
But real quick, do you see why? I mean, I know agents get a bad rap. You see why agents go in and absolutely pillage and get whatever they want for their clients? Mm-hmm. Because you're Rick Chris sitting there saying, well, I won 72% of my games, and all of a sudden, what did I call him?
Rick, his brother.
That's the former MAC commissioner, right?
Yeah.
I do that every time.
Yeah.
I know Rick. Locked into Rick. Don't know Paul, can't get Paul.
But
you see why they pillage, Hoppy? Because Chris wakes up on a Sunday after 8 years of winning 72% of his games, and he's out.
he's out.
If you're Lance Leipold, don't you go get every single dollar that you could possibly get out of this thing?
But again, you can't feel like, oh my gosh, the guy got fired. I mean, what you feel sorry for is the guy who was doing tape for him. Is probably going to get run out too at some point.
It's the assistants, no question.
But
I'm just saying, if I'm the agent for the head coach, my job is to get the best deal I can get.
Yeah.
You can see why they're going to get a ton of money, because they're going to get run.
$16 million is what they pay.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
Now
the flip side is, if you're the ADs at some point, I would think you'd start trying to get these contracts down. You're going to have to be allocating more dollars to players now than you ever have. I don't know that you can continue this silly money in buyouts.
Well, you're doing that, right? You're caught between a rock and a hard place because you're protecting yourself. If you have somebody you really want to keep, then you want the buyout to be high, so it's hard for them to leave, right?
How many people do you really want to keep, though? Look around the country. You're not keeping Chris, who won 72%. How many people look around their program and go, we absolutely have to keep that person? And you know what we're going to do? We're going to back ourselves so far into the corner with a buyout that we can't get out of it. That's how much we believe in this guy. How many guys like that are out there right now that you think ADs would say that about their guys?
This is the headline at CBS Sports. All coaches in danger of being ousted.
Is it really? Did that come from your son? You think he wrote that headline?
He may have. He may have written that headline. So at the end of the season, it could be like, it could be like everybody gets fired. Except Nick Saban.
Yeah. So you wonder why when coaches have a little success, they go in and say, all right, pay up now. Pay up now. You tried to run me out of here? You didn't like me? You didn't like me winning before? Now you're going to pay, because now I have the leverage.
Jeez.
Vicious cycle.
Sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for, right? You pay the price. So, into texts we go, but I will give you this precursor. Very, very, not surprisingly, but very similar to our podcast after the Kansas loss. We have more of them there texts than we have time for, unless we were doing a telethon.
Can I give you one thing, though? This is good. What kind of odds do you think we could have gotten over the summer that we said Paul Chryst would be fired before Harsin at Auburn?
Seriously. Or the Kansas.
And Harsin still got his job after losing to LSU.
Or the Kansas.
Although that watch is on.
Yeah. That's next week.
Yeah.
That's next. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's fine. The point is, a ton of text. Thank you all very, very much for writing. We'll not be able to get into all of those unless we did have like one of those Joe Rogan type length podcasts, like a 3-hour job. And a lot of those texts that were out there are very similar in nature. Very similar. And a lot of the points we already hit, but so I'll give you a complete, it'll be a sampling, like a sample platter. You go to a restaurant, get the sampling
platter.
What you're going to taste in the sampling platter is basically what the gist of the comments were. And we'll do that to the
people upset about not getting their text read should contact Tony directly.
Well, just you can't. I'm sorry about that, but I do appreciate you guys listening. Shall we strike up the band? I don't think I got any. I'm trying to remember if I got a 3-guys shout out at all on the Austin trip.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if I got any 3-guys shout out.
None?
And we were in Round Rock, so I wasn't like in midst of Mountaineer fans. Because Mountaineer fans aren't staying out in Round Rock; they're staying in Austin.
Home of the Round Rock Dragons.
Yeah, Round Rock Dragons. So that was.
You bypassed on your way there. You went past the Pflugerville exit.
Pflugerville, yeah, I see Pflugerville a lot. A lot of athletes come out of Pflugerville. I had a fun time. I was able to use a statistician and a spotter from Lake Travis High School.
Oh, yeah.
The perennial power.
I'll say.
Lake Travis High School. Those guys were nice guys. Had fun with those guys during the course.
They got any players there, Lake Travis?
They always do. They're having a bad season. They're 2-3 because their Michigan State quarterback has been injured all season. So I got a little bit.
Speaking of coaches making a lot of money.
Oh, dude.
Not having a great year.
Dude, how about that one, Senator? How about that? That is going to go down. You just wait. the AD's got to go away.
Where?
Michigan State.
Oh. Well, remember, I mean, the AD said it was 2 private donors that stepped up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are you going to do? They won't put their money there. That's their money.
Got to call them back up and say,
Now
we need more money for the
buyout.
buyout.
Call back up. Now it's the buyout. It was your hire. Give me the money now.
Wow. Here we go from the text line. Hello, Jersey Jeff here. This text is coming in to kill time before we beat Texas. I want to give input on the nickname spreads. After much reflection, I would like to explore the idea among the Three Guys community to rethink that nickname. It just doesn't quite have the ring needed to be a great one. To me, it comes across as weak. I think we need to explore toughening this up. My current recommendation is Howie Hooks, or just Hooks. The reference is to the hook, the obvious hook in betting. I hope I'm not ruffling feathers, overstepping my place. Let's go Mountaineers.
I kind of like spreads, actually.
You like that better than hooks?
I do.
Okay. Texter. So I'm watching College Game Day today. Couldn't help but think of how West Virginia and WV has really changed the sports world. We got an NBA coach coaching possibly the greatest NBA franchise of all time who made it to the title game last year. Pat McAfee has taken over on Game Day. We got the best college football coach ever, Nick Saban, multiple football coaches. We had the best wide receiver to play right under Jerry Rice, Randy Moss. That's not even mentioning the Olympians. But yet ESPN and everyone else who doesn't know what a pepperoni roll is can't remember that we are an actual state. Shake my head. Sorry it was so long. Love what you all do. Steve.
Was there a Virginia reference? Is that right?
I don't know. Well, with McAfee on there, there's not going to be any
Yeah.
Virginia references. Nick and Pinched, a little West Virginia connection in the Rutgers-Ohio State game. Sean Ryan catches a TD pass early to take Rutgers' first ever lead against the Buckeyes in football.
Yeah, they were up 7-0.
Explain something to me, guys, because I only saw the highlight. Why did Ohio State fake that punt that started that whole deal? Just to jack them?
I don't know. I wasn't watching it.
Didn't you see it?
No, yeah, I mean, I know what happened at the end, but I don't know why they did that. But remember, I mean, Shiano's the guy when he was with the Bucks that had his own Donnybrook because Coughlin was trying to just kneel the game out, and he had his guys dive over the line at him. Yeah. They went nose to nose too. So,
old Ryan Day got jacked up there, didn't he? He was ready.
Play to the whistle. Play to the final gun.
Texter, Vegas had the season total wins at 5.5, correct?
Yes.
Where do you see the wins coming from the rest of the season? Because I have a hard time of seeing any. I believe we'll get a couple, but I couldn't tell you where. Senator. Hooks. 5.5.
Well, I'm holding one of those tickets. We're in trouble. Need wins.
Texter, 3 guys, Jamie in San Diego. Why has no one answered the question why we had so many transfers in the secondary? What is going on in that coaching room that put us in this position? As of right now, we don't even have a serviceable personnel group. Well, we touched on that as to what if those that were supposed to be in were in, and they're not. And that has been a huge, huge problem. However, you know, 'tis the new world, man, and exactly why players leave, I'm sure on an individual basis, the answers are all different, but it could not have come at a worse position for West Virginia than there, because that is the absolute glaring weakness. D-line, serviceable and fine. Right now, linebackers, just okay. Back half, not synced up.
Yeah, that's a group. You named them earlier in the show, but then add in Mesidor on the front. I mean, that's of those 5 guys you mentioned, Tyke Smith and Mesidor. That's 2 freshmen All-American. You put those 5 guys back on this defense, I think you feel a lot differently about that team. So that's part of the deal. You haven't been able to replace with guys that have been as productive as the guys that have exited out of that program, and that's the difference on the defense this year.
If you're a regular, how many times did we say before the season began? The question is going to be, how long will it take the newcomers to acclimate? You're hoping that it happens game number 1. It hasn't. It hasn't. And even for the guys that have been in other programs, has not. 3 guys, Jim Preston County, halftime Texas game. Oh, these are always dangerous. Halftime of the Texas game.
Yeah.
Here are my takes. I'm happy with Neal going for it on 4th both times. Our receivers need to play stronger and need, capital letters, to catch the ball. Our DBs need to be better, but those are big deficiencies. I'm hoping Neil can turn it around. This game is most likely lost, but the rest of the year is much need in wins.
Tony, the Rutgers, despite being way, way behind in the game, was going for a block. Okay, which was that sort of starts thing. You're going for a block. A game is one. And the fake was not on. Coach Ryan Day did not call a fake. The punter's Australian.
Oh.
And so he was going to do it rugby style. And so the fake, and so he runs out to do it rugby style and sees there's nobody there and just runs.
Like a deer. He ran like a deer.
Or an Australian kangaroo.
Well, I bet you he'd never got hit that hard.
So that's what happened.
He took a torque on that sideline.
But it starts with like, okay, you're trying to block. Well, I guess. Keep playing. Play to the end. I don't know. What's it matter?
Texter, we stink. If we play anyone with a pulse, we can't compete. One thing we can all agree on is that this is not good enough. We're recruiting good on paper, but on-the-field performance is getting worse. Unnamed. Texter. This game is what it is. Let's pray for a speedy recovery, and God be with C.J. Donaldson and his family. How do we recover? Asked the big guy in Mullins.
Yeah, what do you have on C.J.?
Well, the good news is he did return back with the team on Saturday night. They obviously take extreme precautionary measures when someone is hit and is down like he was. So it was immediate attention, neck brace, backboard, stretcher, and then to the hospital. And so it was really encouraging to see him there. But now you have zero idea as to what are the ramifications of that, what was the significance of it, and how long he'll be. You don't know.
He did tweet out. He said he was doing okay. I think I saw his Twitter. And Coach Neil Brown said that he was under care of the medical staff, and we'd probably learn more tomorrow when the coach has his press conference.
Yeah. Philip in Tampa. I know I said I wouldn't do it, but here I am, lost texting again. It's kind of like drunk texting. Blame it on the drinks. Who cares? The most disappointing thing about this game is that you actually could insert it into year one, and you couldn't tell much of a difference, if at all. Still talking drops, procedural penalties, late, untimely personal fouls, poor coverage, lack of rushing. Most of the time, West Virginia beats the teams they should, but they're not winning a game they shouldn't. They never get over the hump, look like a G5 team routinely. I don't know what the answer is, but this season's going to be a long one. On to what likely is to be more of the same. Thanks for my steam release, Philip, Tampa, Florida.
Well, I'll tell you, this Baylor game looms very, very large. You can even this thing up, or, Brad, you can dig yourself in a hole you can't get out of.
Yeah, you've been better at home under Neil Brown. You're 5-0 against Baylor at home, so they're
Thursday night.
They're not invincible.
No, we saw that Saturday.
Yeah, they were in a great spot. They had every advantage you could get against
Played a tough
Oklahoma
schedule.
State. They'd already been on the road and been tested. Oklahoma State came in there. That was a surprise to me too. You look around the Big 12. Credit to Oklahoma State. They had gone in there with the worst strength of schedule in the country, very, very bottom, and went on the road and beat Baylor team. But I'm not sure Baylor should have been the preseason pick in this league either. They lost significant guys as well.
Understand, however, we don't give enough credit to Oklahoma State.
Oh.
What's that dude do? That dude
Every year,
he's masterful
Yeah, he
at
is.
just being there. He's masterful
Yep.
at just being there. He never is horrible. He's always at worst above average, and sometimes he contends.
High floor. And there's listen, most schools don't subscribe to this, but how long has he been there?
Like 18 years or something?
What did we just say about the 10 years is really the max? He's the outlier. He's a good coach that's built a strong program. They've put support financially around it, and it's rewarded.
I tell you what he does.
It's just rewarded. You know what you're going to get with it. The consistency gives you know what you're getting with them each year.
And how many, Brad, how many times have we seen Oklahoma State and you go, well, they got a couple guys. It's maybe they're not top to bottom like Alabama, but you say, well, they got a receiver, they got a quarterback, they got a running back, so they always have a couple of guys, right, that are NFL caliber guys, number one. Number two, I think they do a great job of saying this year our defense is better, so we're going to rely on our defense. Then the next year their offense is better, they rely on the offense. And all this talk about, this is the hot coach, this is a hot coach. In terms of consistency, other than a couple, it'd be hard to find somebody who's been more consistent over the last 2 decades than Mike Gundy.
Right, but the most consistent guy has been there the longest, too.
Yeah.
I mean, those go hand in hand, right?
Yes.
This is kind of a general theme of all the texts that won't be read. Just don't have time, but this is the theme. It's the same old story. The officiating horrible, the wide receivers drop passes, defensive secondary horrendous, the game with Texas, the offensive line was horrible. Any hope for the future? That's kind of like the theme.
That's the theme.
So there's your theme. You know, I think what our listeners, if I'm hearing correctly, are continuing to ask us is there any hope? Senator, they're looking to you. They're looking to you for hope. Can you get up on the podium? Can you get inside the pulpit and give people some hope?
Well, I thought I tried to earlier. I don't think you can take the worst performance of the year by a long shot and just pick that up and move it forward is what is now going to be the norm from here on out. You didn't get the result in the first 2 games you wanted, but you were a play away in each of those games from winning those. Then you would have been, 4-1 had you pulled that off, and then even a loss to Texas wouldn't have panicked you. I mean, I had this as a loss all along. As I go down and did the schedule and tried to evaluate an over or under ticket on 5.5, I had this as a loss. So I'm not necessarily flipped out as I look at this team, except that they just didn't show up at all and got big boyed. I mean, I realize the way in which they lost is a little bit concerning, but I feel like that was more the outlier like it was at Baylor last year rather than the norm. And as I said, every team that you have left on the schedule has significant flaws left in it. And so you just got to get better. You've got to eliminate those mistakes people are referring to. They're 100% right on those. We know that. That's obvious. But it's not like West Virginia's going to drop 5 every game moving forward. That would surprise me as well. They cleaned it up from the Pitt game on, didn't they? Right? Now, there were other things that popped up. So I don't think you take the worst performance and say that's what this team is moving forward, at least now.
I will say.
Now, at the end of the year, if that happens 4 or 5 times, then you evaluate that. But I don't know that I would take the worst performance and say that's the way this team's going to play every game.
With that thought, there also is the other side of that, and that is at some point they're going to have a great performance.
You would hope, yeah.
You would hope.
Well, and here's the other thing, guys. You want to look at some of these other teams that we've talked about. You mentioned Oklahoma State. They had a 4-year starter in Spencer Sanders. But he's had issues turning the ball over, right?
Right.
Last year against the Baylor team, he had 1 touchdown pass and 7 interceptions.
Excuse me?
He had 1 touchdown and 7 interceptions against Baylor in 2 games. So if you pick up his worst performance and move it forward that he's going to do that against Baylor every year, then he should have been bad on Saturday. But he was not. He had 1 interception, but he wasn't bad. Adrian Martinez at Kansas State's playing like the league's MVP right now. He had 22 interceptions over the last 3 years, and that doesn't count fumbles coming into this year. He has 1 this year, none this year. He's playing fantastically well. So you couldn't take Adrian Martinez's low point and move it forward. He's playing better. But at some point, does Adrian Martinez throw a couple picks? Does Spencer Sanders give you a couple picks? If you're a West Virginia fan, you hope that's when you play him.
Yeah. Rich in Williamsburg, Virginia, basically he started his text with the same general theme as we've already covered, but he does close by saying, I really enjoy the discussions on the San Marzano tomatoes. As a fellow New York Italian, I've never recalled my dad using them. I got to get some. Love the show, Rich in Williamsburg, Virginia. Thank you very much. Next up on our hit parade, longtime listener, fifth time texter. I think I may have found a solution to your distaste of the aforementioned chicken restaurant we've been talking about. I think you need to go to your boy JT Daniels and get the secrets to ordering the best food. I'm sure that NIL deal he signed gave him some secret menu items. I didn't realize that. He did an NIL deal with them. We're at Georgia probably, huh? Obviously, it wasn't around here. Texter, I think everyone would agree the football season has not unfolded the way we had hoped. Very frustrating to see the coaches at Kansas, Baylor, TCU, Tech have success despite being at their jobs far less than the coach we have. Obviously, you guys are much closer to the program than the average fan. How many wins does Coach Brown need this year for you 3 to feel the program is moving in the right direction? Scott in Morgantown.
How many wins? Right direction? Well, if a lot of it depends on how they're playing. If they played like they did against Texas, then then you say, okay, you're not heading the right direction. I mean, if you can somehow squeeze out 6 wins and win a bowl game and play well down the stretch, get a couple of wins, yeah, you'd say, okay, see what happens next year. By the way, did you see that? College football, we sit here and try to predict what's happening. Georgia Tech.
Oh, my gracious.
Georgia Tech beats Pitt. Fires the coach, beats Pitt.
Yep. You mean Pitt's performance wasn't repeatable every single week?
Apparently not.
How about UConn Huskies as 20-some point underdogs finally winning a game, beating Fresno State?
Yeah.
Fresno State happy? Yeah, it's a tough gig, man. Tough gig. Things happen.
I'll tell you what happens. You want to know what happens?
What?
When people buy recreational vehicles, they buy them at Burdette Camping. You know why? Only dealer in the state that offers a warranty forever.
Did you see any in Austin?
Oh! I walked around the lots.
Yeah.
I said, hey there, big feller. Got this RV with those big Longhorn steer horns sticking out your radiator grill. Where'd you get that? He said, young man, you wouldn't believe it. I said, where? He said, Burdette Camping, located in Winfield, West Virginia. I said, sir, not surprised at all. Why'd you buy that there? He said, because they got a warranty that lasts forever.
It's good.
Portions of that conversation may have been altered to improve the sponsor. But anyway, you get the point. If you're in the RV world, why wouldn't you buy from the place that offers you a warranty forever? It's Burdette Camping, located in Winfield, near Fraser's Bottom, BurdetteCamping.com. That's BurdetteCamping.com. Sean from Raleigh, North Carolina here. I'm not clever enough to come up with catchy names for you clowns, with all due respect. Well, to quote Brad's daughter, damn it! I had good feelings going in, and sputtering offensive start didn't help, but I don't know if it would have mattered at the end. The attack on the back end was going to be relentless, kind of like basketball season. We can hope for a modicum of improvement, but it's not getting fixed this season. Woods being back there could mitigate some of it, but he can't cover them all. I'm afraid this offense might be facing the same thing as the 2012 group. Score every time or lose, that's an impossible road. I'm still hopeful for 6 wins, going to be difficult. A very challenging offseason for the department since there won't be a change. For the record, I don't want to change because I don't want to start that cycle. Beat Baylor.
Well, that's interesting, too. We don't talk much about Woods anymore, but that's another, in essence, loss in that defensive secondary.
Yeah.
That's really 6 starters over
that
the last.
That was your anchor. That was the guy you were depending on to get everybody lined up in the right place.
6 over the last 2. 6 over, this would be the third, so 6 over the last 3.
When's he going to be
If you count him in that group.
It's all depending on how quickly, they're starting to walk and jog, and it's all going to be pain tolerance going forward. Because it's such a unique injury. It's not like, hey, that's 3 weeks, that's 4 weeks. It's just kind of like, did the procedure, now how are you feeling? How's it responding when you start to move a little bit on it? Texter writes in, I'm older than Hoppy in South Charleston.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. Probably writing in from a nursing home. Guys, do you think we will ever be consistently competitive in the Big 12, top 3 or 4 teams? The Texas and the Oklahoma teams have a big advantage in recruiting, obviously population proximity. We are not alone. There are teams in the SEC, Big Ten, ACC that aren't competitive. Maybe a big win here or there, or 6, 7, or 8 wins occasionally may be the best we and those other teams can hope for. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to think you would be.
And the expectation, it's reasonable to expect to be competitive in the league. That's a reasonable expectation. By that I mean have a winning record in the league fairly consistently, Brad, and every few years compete for a league championship.
It's a reasonable expectation.
That's reasonable.
Hi, guys. Chuck from Lumberport. So tired of hearing people complaining about Coach Brown. Yeah, there is time, I think. He does some bonehead things. Then I think I couldn't do any good as a coach or a player. 99% that is headhunting, never played college or coached football at this level. Why belittle the coach and the players like they are? How would they feel if their bosses did that to them in front of their peers or subordinates? I'm behind the team 100%. Well, you come here, Chuck, and you'll see how Hoppy berates the people that work with him 100% of the time, subordinates. You get a little taste, so.
What are you saying?
See, here it goes. Now he's starting on me.
Why would you say that today?
No, I'm just. Because you're an easy foil.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
How many times, Brad, do people come up to us and say, you guys better take it easy on old Hoppy?
A lot.
I mean, a lot of sympathy out there for you.
Oh.
Yeah, they know you're socially inept and they feel for you.
Taylor got a chuckle out of that.
Across the wall.
By the way,
Taylor.
I am not socially inept. I am. You know me well. You tease me. You know me well enough to know that I am perfectly capable of handling social situations.
Absolutely, but you're weird as hell. You can't.
See, I don't think I'm weird. I do not think I'm weird.
Listen, this is what I'm going to tell you. Here's the deal, dude. Yes, you can. You can be an elite level, top 2 percentile person in a social setting.
Yeah.
But then you run away from it. You're like a guy, right? Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Set up a little straighter. Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree with that, Brad? He's kind of like the guy that could throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, but every time he gets to the mound, he just goes like, 75 is good. Yes, you can be elite, but you don't like it. It makes you uncomfortable, which I find this wonderful paradox.
Well, I side with him on that, but I side with you on then you probably shouldn't call him socially awkward because he's really not socially awkward. He just doesn't like it.
What is he then?
More reclusive than he is socially awkward.
Okay, that's cool.
I'll go with that.
Is that fair? More fair?
Howard Hughes like.
I don't think it's exactly fair because I do enjoy social interaction.
On your terms.
No, I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy that.
Who are you talking to, Willis? That's fine.
This is okay.
This helps you. This gets I think we're making strides because we've got some new news developments on the beer meeting being set up for this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I got 2 emails already today. They're ready to have a meeting.
I got a question, but we'll do it after the show. I got something that.
Well, you already want to make a demand?
No. It's related tangentially to this.
Okay.
But not directly.
Jason in Charleston, South Carolina. Scopes, spreads, Hoppy ×3. I believe our current win total would be much higher if we had not lost so much talent on defense to the portal. What can the department and coaching staff do to prevent that type of attrition? If the answer is that we simply do not have the program prestige or money to retain top talent in what is clearly a wide-open free agent market, we must get better at replacing what was lost.
We talked about that a little bit Saturday, and look, you do what you can do. I mean, okay, they try to get some NIL money.
Which they are.
Yeah, which they are. And also, create the kind of atmosphere where players and the players' families want those players to be. And we've heard in some of these player interviews, it's starting to show up, Tony, where they'll say, why are you West Virginia recruited? And they talk about a family atmosphere. I know that sounds corny and people are to dismiss that, but I think the staff and this head coach works very hard to create an atmosphere where these players feel comfortable and the players' families feel that their sons are in the right place. And that's part of it. Maybe that's not gonna hold up if somebody at another school says you can make $55,000 through NIL.
Right.
Okay, can't do anything about that. But for the vast majority, I think that's a significant factor. At least that's the route they're going.
It is, and some continuity matters to that, though, and that's not just at the head coach level. That's at the assistant coach level. You see that all the time. Assistant coaches leave. They have relationships with certain players, and sometimes that causes you losses. So the continuity part among the staff is also really important, and then it just comes down to individuals. That's going to be an individual decision for most.
We've entered into a very potentially fearful time that whenever you watch your team, whomever your team may be, and that player on that team continues to have success, you get this feeling, oh my gosh, what are the phone calls going to be going to his high school coach or to his parents to say, hey, saw Bobby had a really good game out there. Do you know that if he goes here, they would give him X? That's what just worries the heck out of you.
Sure.
And that's happening.
Sure.
I mean, it's unlike anything we've ever had to experience, and so you're going to have to learn how to navigate in that new world. What the answer is exactly, it's per individual and it's per player.
Right. And then you're going to have to turn around and do that to other schools too.
Absolutely.
You're going to look at Alabama over this weekend and see they're playing a lot of young freshman receivers. And now you go down the list and see who their juniors are that aren't playing that might have a year or two left, and you get on the phone.
Absolutely.
If you're getting poached, you now need to poach. Kercheval, go poach.
Got to.
People are poaching you. People are making those calls. People are leaving and taking guys. You go poach.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
No honor among thieves here. Go poach.
I mean, what choice do you have? You have no choice, so you have to do that. And also, in fairness, if there is a junior someplace that's not playing, let him play. Let him go someplace where they can play, right?
And that's why the rule's in place.
Yeah.
That player shouldn't have to just sit out his career there. Yeah. But that's where you're going to have to make your hay is off those type of guys.
What bothers you is, Tony, what you talked about is you have a guy, and I won't mention any names, but he's doing very well that you've been on for a long time and recruited, and you get him at a particular school, and he's playing well, and then he's gone. Right. That's what kills you.
Exactly.
But you know where that's always happened?
Where?
With your coaches. West Virginia's dealt with that with their coaches since Nealon and Catlett.
Well, that is true.
It's just now over on the players as well, but you have done that throughout time on both football and basketball with your coaches. Every time there's been success. Did you ever go through this with Rich?
Oh, yeah.
Rich ever get some calls? Beeline ever get some calls?
Sure.
Constant, right? So you went through. Now it's onto the players too.
Yeah.
It's part of what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Robin in Cumberland writes, 5 out of 10 Big 12 teams currently ranked in the AP poll, as well as future member BYU. Oklahoma and Texas are not ranked. It is a strange world that we live in, says Robin in Cumberland. Texter, Sean, Athens, West Virginia. First foremost, here to say that hope CJ is okay. Praying that he is. I try not to be one of the sky-falling fans. However, at this point, it's tough to find positive. Lost Saturday felt like an absolute gut punch. Maybe a reality check. The team felt a bit unprepared, unfocused. Last few years have certainly not been the best for good reasons. It just feels like we should be improved by now. I don't expect us to be Alabama, but expect us to be competitive, not struggle to become bowl eligible. So, gentlemen, please tell me something positive about where we are as a program right now. Thank you, guys.
Well, I think Brad had the most positive thing you can say, and that is, which I tend to get all worked up, don't be a prisoner of the moment.
Okay. Senator? Process?
Asked and answered.
Oh. You want to rewind and go back to what you said earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Howe will not be repeating his comments.
I said asked and answered.
Okay.
Texter, if the definition of insanity is doing the same thing expecting a different result, what do you call changing everything and getting the same result? 6-6 used to be the bare minimum of expectation. Now it seems the best case scenario. Always an excuse for losing. At some point you have to win in spite of things not going your way. Yeah, ultimately, it's always going to come down to the wins and the losses. There's no question about that. No question about that. It will come down. Texter asked this question. Worst WVU results having the best quarterback? 1999 with Mark Bulger or this season with JT Daniels?
Well, you still got a ways to go here to see. And was that the year they opened with Ohio State?
No, that was 98. 99 was East Carolina opening, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Down in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Hurt his hand.
Yeah.
Remember? I believe that he hurt his hand.
I always thought it was the hand, but he said on the podcast it was something else because we were stunned by that. I've gone 23 years thinking it was his hand. He told us it was something different. Now I can't remember what he hurt, but I don't think it was the hand.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and listen to that.
They were
always thought it was the hand.
We'll have to get Steve
4-7.
Yeah.
4-7 that year.
Yeah, we'll have to get Steve Beer involved in that. Stevie would be able to tell us.
He told us Mark told us himself on the podcast.
Yeah, but let's see what Steve says.
For public
let's see what Steve
consumption says. There. I just can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I was floored by that though.
Yeah.
Wow, you know what? That was a good team. That was a good team.
Oh yeah.
You had Bulger, Jerry Porter, Corey Ivy, Avon Coburn, Wes Hours, Anthony Beck on that team. Barrett Green.
Oh.
4-7.
Is that amazing? Opened with who?
East Carolina.
Yeah. And
Opened
Charlotte.
there. Yeah.
And Charlotte.
Yeah.
Lost to East Carolina. Beat Miami, Ohio. Lost at Maryland 33-0.
Excuse me?
Lost at Maryland 33-0.
Was that the Blue Pants game? No, that was Chad Johnston.
Lost
That's
at
when
Syracuse
I was working at Maryland.
Yeah.
30-7.
94.
Lost to Navy 31-28.
Yep.
beat Rutgers, beat Temple, lost at Miami 28-20, lost at Virginia Tech when Virginia Tech was ranked third, 22-20.
Why don't you ask your boy Dunlap why they lost to Navy?
Yeah. Lost at had to prepare for the option. Lost at Boston College 34-17, beat Pittsburgh 52-21.
Yeah, Mark could get up for those Pittsburgh games.
What a weird year that was.
Yeah.
95, I think, was the Blue Pants at Maryland. Right, because what year was that? You just said
99.
That was at Maryland?
It was at Maryland.
Yeah, so it was the odd years. Yeah, it was 95.
Long-time listener, long-time texter. My opinion, mindset of the program has not changed. I think Neil Brown will be a good coach and has the program in the right direction. I think after the Tech game, West Virginia needed to split Texas and Baylor. Moreover, I believe Baylor was the much better matchup, and West Virginia playing at home should give them a boost. The only thing I'm discouraged with is the secondary looked completely lost again during the first half. More positive note, Geno Smith is killing it. Dropping dime after dime yesterday, looked like a Pro Bowler. You know, his numbers right now are better than Russell Wilson. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. Hey, Tony, trivia, probably not fair. Who was a quarterback from Maryland on that 1999 team? I don't think you'll get this, but he was there for a couple years.
Scott Covington.
Shaun Hill.
Oh, yeah, I remember Shaun Hill.
Remember Shaun Hill?
S-H-A-U-N?
What's that?
S-H-A-U-N?
S-H-A-U-N. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah. I pulled one out the other week.
What was that?
I pulled one out last week for Greg Hunter. We were talking.
Yeah.
And he said something about Vienna, Virginia. And I said, Vienna, Virginia. What, Doc Basil from Vienna, Virginia? He looks it up. I don't know how you do it. You're right, Doc Basil.
You know, who was a freshman linebacker on that Maryland team, E.J. Henderson.
Yeah,
freshman linebacker on that Maryland team.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yep. Dee-da.
Speaking of which, Cougars are having some problems.
Who?
Cougars, Houston Cougars.
Oh, yeah, they are.
They lost a tough one there the other night.
One of the more disappointing teams in the country. People were trying to make them into this year's Cincinnati.
But
which you weren't following very closely if you thought that was
Tulane.
Yeah.
And did you see the video? I mean, Dana had a major meltdown.
I was watching it.
Couldn't get lined up.
They had some interest in that one.
Couldn't get lined up.
What'd you do on that game?
What do you think I did?
You went with Tulane and took the points. Ding, ding.
The Spreads was cashing a lot of tickets over the weekend.
Attaboy.
He got Saturday. He got off. He thought he was getting off to a bad start, and he was in bad humor.
I was off to a bad start.
But
I rest. It's why you play the whole game. You don't take my worst moment. Kirchville was trying to take my worst moment at about 12:15
and amplify it.
12:30 on Saturday and tried to amplify it. He was over there asking, "How you doing now? How you doing now?" Just needle.
On, yeah.
Won't surprise. Didn't ask me the rest of the day how I was doing. When I turned it around, didn't just stay on the mat, didn't take my lowest moment and just move it forward. Rallied, started cashing.
We had on TCU Oklahoma. And my man here is afraid he's not going to hit the under when it's at 92. 90 when it's at 93, and he's paranoid he's not going to hit the under because TCU is scoring at will. So he turns the game off. Turns it off.
What did it end up?
I cashed under 93, under 88, under 86 and a half. And he was all up my backside there because I thought I was.
I was trying to keep an eye on the score to help you, and you didn't want to hear the score.
He's a very rare combination of a recluse who's a bully. That's who he is.
He took great delight in my early struggles, which means I took great delight in my 3-0 off that one game.
No,
made sure I told him.
I congratulate you when you do well. I think it's amazing.
False praise.
Texter. Hello. This is P16 3/4, former Mayor Ryan from Clay. I wanted to tell you all how much I look forward to the podcast each week. The question is for Tony. After the unfortunate touchdown by Texas that was so close to being an interception, you went to commercial. I would love to know what is going through your mind or what you say in such a situation. Thank you, gentlemen, for all you do in the state and the university. Hoppy, 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 hut. Probably not a whole lot different than what fans think or say. I don't, sometimes I just kind of talk about it intelligently. And there are other times where you say, like, what are you doing? But I have to be careful, obviously, near a live microphone. And so I try to, as much as I can, not to say that I'm perfect.
And Tony, in reference to you, I've been around you a lot when you've been play-by-play. You don't have time to be thinking about a lot of other things. You got to be on top of what you're doing. No. So you're frustrated too, or you're happy too, but then you got the next play, and you can't get lost in your emotion of the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 guys I've got lots to pontificate about regarding our current irrelevance, but I'll let you leave that for the others and say something positive. I had a really good time taking my 15-year-old son to Austin, even though we played awful. Delicious barbecue feast at Stubbs before the game. Wonderful brunch at Snooze on Sunday, where we watched that incredible NFL game in London. The food and the quality time with my teenage son was worth the trip. The Texas fans were very nice. DKR is legit. I look forward to going back to see a game in their new basketball arena. I even enjoyed the drunk dude sitting beside me who spilled his brisket nachos all over my back.
Oh, that's bad.
This guy, every time Texas did something bad, literally yelled, "What the beep?" on top of his lungs. Texas fans apologized for his behavior.
Oh.
But we didn't mind. Truth is, we wanted to hear his WTFs a lot more. Unfortunately, our drops and blown coverages kept his cursing to a minimum. Signed, Matt in Tulsa.
Brisket nachos sound good right now.
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something.
What?
Food-wise,
yeah,
at Texas.
Yeah.
You were there once?
Once. Well, I've been there, but I mean.
Yeah, in the game. So that you would go in this back room, like 1962 room.
Yes.
And they had, in the past, they would have this taco thing set up.
Yes.
But you would have to build a taco like a hard shell taco, right? This year you go in there, and they have the taco pre-made, wrapped in foil.
It's good.
And it was off the chart. And then you just put your stuff that you wanted on there. So I put 2 to take with me. Couldn't stop myself.
Is this the press box?
Yeah. Couldn't stop myself. Took a third.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say, why'd you only take 2?
Well, these are real tacos. This isn't like this. I mean, the real.
Okay, why'd you only take 2?
I was uncomfortable until midway through the third quarter. I went to my boy. I went to my boy, Michael Fergale, at halftime. I said, "Yo, man, you holding anything?" He goes, "Yeah, I got what you need." Took not that it has anything to do with your digestion. I said, "Give me 4 ibuprofen." just give me 4. Just give me. I learned that from you, Hoppy. I mean, the 800 milligram ibuprofen. 800s.
You got to be careful with that, though. You can't
well,
just
don't
go
worry,
popping 800s.
Well, I know. Listen, I had enough in my stomach to take care of it.
He didn't take it on an empty stomach.
And finally, it cleared midway through the third quarter. I went, "Oh, okay, fine."
Well, that's for your head. That doesn't do your stomach.
I know. It was all subliminal or whatever it was.
Just give me something.
I just need something.
I just need something. What do you got?
Third one put you over the edge?
Don't even talk to me about Friday night.
Probably was the speed in which you had to eat it, too. That probably doesn't help.
All right, go ahead. Do Friday.
Remember when I came on your radio show there?
Yeah, and you had
planned it.
I'm all planned.
I'm all set. Well, something happened on the way to the play, Mrs. Johnson. So I get over to the facilities building there, facilities old school, Pushkar Center on Friday. Before I get on there, I might have a little hankering for something. What time? I think I'm going to go back in the team room. They got the best, by the way, Starbucks coffee machine in the world.
Excuse me?
In the world. They got a Starbucks coffee machine back in where training table is that you would think and go like, okay, I'm going to get horse crap coffee out of this thing, right? It's got this great visual monitor. You go like, what would you like? Brewed coffee? I'd like a brewed coffee. It takes like 4 minutes to do everything. Like, goes, what beans would you like? Okay, I'm taking my little veranda beans here. You hear everything. You hear the coffee ground. It grinds it. You hear the water, the whole thing. It takes about 4 minutes. The coffee is superb. It's better Starbucks than you get at Starbucks.
Can you get some creamers and stuff put in that?
They got some stuff on the side.
There's stuff over there?
Yeah, but anyway, so I go, okay, I'm just going to be a good boy, get the coffee and get out of here, get on the bus and hit the water. I turned around. Big box of Jersey Mike subs.
What's wrong with you?
I said, what kind is it? Turkey, that's not heavy. I'll get me one of those. Put the peppers on there. The whole thing went in the bus, crushed that. Now, I did well on the plane. Only had like grapes or something like that. But then we went to that.
You didn't have a Dove bar?
No, nothing. No, they didn't even have ice cream on this trip. And then we went to Salt Lick. Went to Salt Lick on Friday night. Got family style. They just keep bringing you meat. They just keep bringing you meat. Crushed. Just so stupid.
What was the best meat?
All of it.
Well, which was the best?
Ribs, probably.
Oh, really?
Ribs were tremendous. Great moist. Very good. Sausage gets you.
Sausage having heat to it?
Teeny bit.
Slept okay?
3 pillows all night long, straight up.
So you said that wasn't going to happen.
I know. I'm telling you. I'm being honest with you. It happened. Had 4 Rolaids and a
you didn't
Tagamet.
believe him that it wasn't going to happen, did you?
Well, no,
Do you
he's
know
like,
him?
No, this is what he does. He's like, because I appreciate you being candid, because you say, no, because I'm on this thing now and I don't eat between these hours, and so I've got it perfectly worked out and I can eat all I want and I'll sleep like a baby. It'll all be fine. And then he screws it up. Screwed the pooch.
I'll take the punishment. I was stupid.
Of course he did.
This is what I said. This is what I
Lock of the century.
This is what I
Minus 5,000 to overeat. Lay it.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to read this next one only because
I'm more hungry than I already was.
Yeah, I'm hungry too.
Only. By the way, I had to go to Forgell Friday night too. 4 Rolaids.
Why don't you pack something?
4 Rolaids and a Tagamet.
Well, it's a good thing he brings a separate suitcase full of antacids and ibuprofen and everything
You think
else.
he reminded me of that? He said, hey, I always have to take care of your boy Brad Howe. He used to make fun of my bag, and he'd always come over here and get treatment. All right, I'm going to read this. This is too long, Randy. Don't send another text this long, but I'm going to read it only because your last one was really good. This is the guy that had the kidney stones and couldn't wake the people up.
Yeah.
Which is a good
Hope this trip went better.
Hey, guys, Randy State College. Last week I shared my stories about my first 2 trips to Austin, the kidney stone, and then the misconnection in Philly. I'm going to copycat the 3 guys' approach and title this text, Third Time Not a Charm. As I mentioned in my last text, I'm traveling down to Austin, 3rd game at War Memorial Stadium. I went with my wife, brother-in-law, and his wife. We arrived Thursday, no drama, head downtown 6th Street, ate some great food, heard some great music, indulged a few cocktails. Fantastic night. Friday, we're meeting my nephew and his significant other for lunch at Lambart's on 2nd Street. Tony, I think I would have made you proud. I went for the triple meat platter, brisket, ribs, sausage, 2 sides, a few drinks to wash it down. 90 minutes later,
Yes.
they roll me out of the place, and the 6 of us jump in our host car. They take us to an overlook in Austin called Mount Bunnell. Been there, Hoppy?
Yep.
The place is busy. Must have at least 40 cars parked on the road. We climbed 90 steps to the top. View's beautiful. Look down on a tree-lined lake, some beautiful homes with the Austin skyline distance. 20 minutes later, we walk back to the car, only to find the rear window had been smashed. My wife and my sister-in-law's purses, gone.
Oh.
Among other things, both purses had credit cards, driver's license, phones, cash. Only old people carry cash, I know. A second car was also vandalized and also lost a purse. We called the police, but once we told them no guns were taken, they told us they were not coming. They promised to call within 24 hours to gather the info for the police report. How comforting. Now the nightmare begins.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh.
You know you need to cancel your credit cards, but of course trying to remember all of the cards is no small feat. Why would you need to know? You have apps on your smartphone that tell you the cards you have. She can't use my phone to log into her email or credit card accounts because no one knows the passwords. Why would you use facial recognition to log in, which allows you to create really complicated passwords that no one would ever guess? Even if you can remember one of the passwords, you're logging in from a different device, so they send a verification code to your smartphone, which, of course, you don't have.
Yeah.
If that isn't bad enough, you still need to get home. The women need to get through TSA without a photo ID. Now, that's something fun to look forward to. Well, we survived. After a few hundred questions that seemed like a strip search, we made it home. With all the drama, we still made it to the game. We were invited to a Texas tailgate with some great barbecue and drinks. Our hosts were wonderful, and the smoked turkey was amazing. I won't comment on the game, but we all know how that went. Needless to say, I do not have plans to travel back to Austin anytime soon.
Nor should you.
Randy, you should put a bubble on, dude.
Yeah, ball game.
Well, that
You're done.
Sucks.
So
So
I mean, never
bad.
had travel with him. That's a bad. That's a bad.
You know what? In all
Terrible.
seriousness, thanks for that, dude. I mean, I'm sorry, sincerely sorry that happened. But we can provide a public service now, shall we?
Okay.
They had no idea, obviously, someone would bust their windows out If you're ever in that similar situation, right, put them in the trunk of your car.
Yeah.
Just a little, right, thought. Put them in the trunk of your car, and I'm sure if we can, hey, you know how, if we can, on this podcast, if we could just stop one purse from being stolen, that's all we're after.
By the way, that Overlook is nice. My son's taking me there, like, let's go to the Overlook. And I go, okay, it's fine. I mean, we come from a state of overlooks, okay? so it's kind of like.
New slogan, the Overlook State.
No, it's kind of like that if he came here and we'd say, I mean, we got some great store that sells cowboy hats. Okay.
So you see their Overlook and raise them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd take this and give you Cooper's Rock plus 50.
Cooper's Rock, New River Gorge, Hawk's Nest.
Tell you, I don't want to get you on
Harper's Ferry.
Blennerhassett Island.
Canaan Valley.
Blackwater Falls.
Smoke Hole Cabins.
I mean,
Seneca Rocks.
People got to show you what they have. I get that, but it's sort of like, okay.
Terra Alta.
Even Sheet Lake.
Man-made by the power company, still pretty as a plum.
Summersville Lake.
Built by the Army Corps of Engineers.
Cabway Lingo.
Target Valley, Target Lake.
Hell, I see that. I'll give you Decker's Creek. Muddle Tea. Elk River. All right, John from Oklahoma City. Not making it personal.
Go ahead. Get to the next area.
Cass Railroad. Green Bank. Rail Trail in Greenbrier County.
I'm crying.
Hatfield McCoy Trail.
Shawnee State Park.
Read the next one.
Fairmont Wave Pool.
Did you just give us a Fairmont Wave Pool?
May have gotten a bit off topic.
Slightly. Broke out into a sweat.
Just get that sweat. I'm going to go home and shower before sports talk. Finish the show. Need a towel.
John from Oklahoma City. Not making it personal, but are the secondary problems a lack of physical ability, or have they just not adjusted to the coaching? Senator?
I don't have a good answer.
Thank you.
Except that Texas just was, I mean, it was, Brad, it was so noticeable how aggressive and on it Texas was defensive on both sides.
See, that's the thing. Both sides of the ball. Texas got protection,
yes,
and then hit deep. Right, those two things go together. West Virginia didn't have the protection and couldn't get deep. Intertied. The one.
Yeah.
Lastly, texter Rachel in Martinsburg. 3 guys, I'm not a big fan of the long-winded Texas that have come in lately and have nothing to do with West Virginia sports. Wow. So I'll get right to my question. Apparently she's not going to be.
She didn't like that last segment. Unfortunately for Rachel, she's not going to hear her text read because she's already turned it off with the whole tourism segment there.
Exactly.
Sorry, Rachel. If anybody knows Rachel, tell her that her text is read. She can fast forward.
Do you think, she asks, we would be in a better position defensively If Neil would have gotten rid of Jared Deggy 2 seasons ago and brought in a better quarterback like we have now, I can't help but think the defensive players who left were frustrated with our offense for the last 3 seasons, so they left. Now we finally have a solid quarterback and we're struggling defensively. Thank you, Rachel, in Martinsburg.
I mean, I don't see that, you know. Who knows why guys leave for different reasons. I mean, Josh Chandler-Samito left. He's at a team that's 0-5, you know. So,
You know, Rachel, I would say this, to be quite honest. My opinion would be wins and losses probably have very little to do with a departure. I truly do believe that. I think it is much less than you would think. I think it's all about, at this point, it's about 2 things: the ability to play more and money.
Okay.
And wins would be after that in somewhere exactly. Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
I think those matter. I think there's other things too. I think there's familiarity with coaches that you've seen before, been with before.
Yeah.
I think that matters.
Yeah. All right. So, time for a production meeting on the air. I guess we're just going to come back Thursday and do something.
Do something.
Seems like we always find something.
We can talk a little bit of that basketball.
Do you just have Roman numeral 1 and it says something?
Yeah, I got it.
And then under that's A, anything, B, maybe something, C, don't have anything.
Well, no.
Let's talk basketball.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I received a text yesterday afternoon. A gentleman who I know lives here in West Virginia was in Italy. And he sent me a text, and he said, "You see any familiar names on this scoreboard?" He was at Nate Adrian's game.
Oh.
He was watching Nate play. Nate had a nice day yesterday. His team won 63-61, and Nathan led his team in scoring with 22 points.
Oh, there we go. Good.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
And then I said, "Tell him I said hi," and then he sent me a picture of the 2 of those guys saying, "Yo."
So the off-season surgeries were a success for Nate.
He's playing ball.
Good.
Playing ball.
Nathan is doing very well for himself.
Yeah. Happy for that young man.
Good.
Happy for that young man.
I wonder if he's got a lemon tree up and going yet.
I don't know if he's we'll have to he's probably due to come on, don't you think? You check in with him. All right, so that was episode 406 of 3 Guys Before the Game. As we properly previewed our Thursday episode, it's going to be about something. Who knows?
I better prepare.
Who knows? I mean, the way things are going this week, and just in the big span of college. Oh, but I did hear something.
What?
Basketball-wise, on this trip, hearing Fox Sports making a very heavy push to get very involved with Big 12 basketball going forward.
Okay.
Heard that from not one, but twice heard that. So that's probably going to be something down the road. Want to get heavily involved in basketball. All right, 3 Guys Before the Game, brought to us by Comax Business Systems, your full-service Konica Minolta dealer. Go to Comax Business Systems at ComaxWV.com. By the Burdett Camping Center, the only warranty forever RV dealer in all of West Virginia. Visit them at burdettcamping.com. For the reclusive Hoppy, for the wonderful Senator, and for our producer extraordinaire, Tyler Jinglehammer Smith Kennedy, we're out. See you.